Good morning, everybody. Pastor Rick, Broadman Baptist Church. This is the Broadman Word for December 22nd, 2021. And as usual, this is Perspectives from the Devotional Radical Wisdom. Today, I want to talk to you about conversations and about how we talk to people, particularly this time of year where we're very busy and there's lots of gatherings, and maybe we've seen folks or around people that we don't always get to see or be around. And in particular, our communication style. It's the title of today's Broadman Word is "You Don't Know," and so it occurred to me in speaking with some people, particularly busy people, that as we talk, they almost seem distracted, and I became distracted talking to them. And the phrase that comes up sometimes that I thought was particularly overused was "I know." Now, the person's probably just trying to be empathetic with you, or maybe let you know that they understand, but you probably don't know if you're not actually listening to the people, and that's where we get the "You Don't Know" title for today. You don't really know what they've been through or why they're wanting to speak to you about whatever it is. The subject matter doesn't really matter. It's the "I know," and especially if the person's not completely finished with their thought yet, or maybe even you have a thought and it seems good and you want to get it out, and you maybe talk over them at the end of what they're saying. And so it isn't really a good form of communication. It doesn't let the individual know that you're not just listening, but you're hearing. It doesn't let the individual feel like that they can say more. You've already declared that you know. And so if that's true, then whatever else they wanted to tell you becomes mute, or maybe even irrelevant, or at least it could make them feel that way. So we need to be very careful, particularly when we use the phrase or whatever phrases that we use. In other conversations, after having this experience with the "I know," caught myself not necessarily saying "I know," but thinking about other things while the person was talking, and then using platitudes like "oh yeah," or "wow," or "yeah, I get it," or "uh-huh," those kinds of things. And I was the one doing it, and it was because I wasn't really listening. I was certainly there in front of the person and hearing, but not really listening to what they had to say, and really just kind of wanting to move the conversation along. And it was because I was busy, and because that feeling of frustration of needing to get other things done, or needing to talk to other people even and get this over with, basically, was coming through in my speech, not intentionally, but I'm sure the other person didn't walk away with the feeling that I had actually cared about them and what they were talking about, and that I had listened to what they had to say. I certainly heard it, but I might not have listened to it. So the Bible doesn't include a lot of dialogue before and after what Jesus said, before the actual scriptures. But if there was ever a guy who could have said "I know," it would have been Jesus, right? And he would have certainly been telling the truth. But we don't see him in scripture saying that. We see quite the opposite. Although he very clearly knew everything about everybody in every situation, he still listened, and he still spoke directly with meaningful words, and he listened intently for what the person's needs were. And so I doubt any of us reach a Jesus-like consciousness, but I bet we could do a lot better with our regular communications and our conversations to be more Jesus-like, in that while you may have an idea of what the person's going through or saying, you don't truly know until you've listened to them, not just heard them, and until they've been able to fully express whatever it is they needed or wanted to tell you. So we need to take that time to be present in the conversation, to be centered on the individual speaking to you, and to have ears that listen, not just hear, and a heart that is open to whatever need or information is being presented to you, and then have minds that process it thoughtfully and reply with meaningful words and empathy and compassion for whatever the individual might be going through. Even if it's a rather routine conversation, they're communicating something to you. They want you to know it. And so we should have the kind of caring for each other that demands that we listen. So I can't imagine Jesus saying, I know. That just doesn't seem like he would employ that phrase. And perhaps we shouldn't either. Jesus was full of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and also self-control. And he listened. He really listened. So perhaps that's something that we need to consider employing in our own conversations and our own way of communicating. To simply listen. Be present and listen. Hey, listen, I love you. I want you to have a marvelous day in the Lord, and go out there and actually listen to somebody. Take care. We'll see you next time.